Welcome back to one of my tutorials. This tutorial is gonna deal with a dagger device in conjunction with the Vector 21B using the ACE mod for Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. So, if I open up my gear menu now, you can see that I actually have the dagger device. This is not standard setup for your unit. You'd have to place that deliberately as a mission maker or using the editor. It doesn't come with a battery, it doesn't need a battery, unlike the Vector 21B niCe, which has one of these lovely huge batteries. They are called 2CR5 battery. And note that the dagger device only works in conjunction with the green Vector right now. There is also a Desert Camo variant of this device. They don't work together right now. This might be fixed in the future, but just keep in mind the dagger is green, and so your Vector should be green as well in order for it to work. So what the dagger allows you is to A, show your own coordinates and information about your own current location, B, have you enter waypoints so that you can navigate through the terrain without having to look at your map, and show you distance, bearing and track to a desired point on the map, and C, have you effectively get coordinates from targets that you can spot with the vector device. But first, a word on coordinates. You can see if I open up the map, I happen to have a GPS device, and it shows that I am, which is this blue marker on the map here, currently at 0807, which is the horizontal axis, 0628, which is the vertical axis. And this corresponds to the map. Note that this is an 8-figure grid, a so-called 8-figure grid, because it consists of 8 digits. Unlike the map, which only shows a 6-figure grid on most maps, you can see it goes from left to right on the horizontal axis. So I'm in this square right here, which is 080 in the horizontal axis, and in the vertical axis 062, which corresponds to what the GPS device shows, so 080 and 062. But this has an additional digit for each direction, so I'm currently at 0807. Imagine you divide this square into 10 more subsquares, and then you can see that I'm roughly at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the horizontal axis, and in the vertical axis I'm almost to the top, and the GPS device gives information that this reflects the digit 8. So there's still 9. I'm probably right at the edge to 9, and then there's, of course, the next square that starts at 063. So this is how you'd get your coordinates using either the map, if you have like these markers on the map, which you normally don't do, or if you happen to have a GPS device, you can do this and get it, or of course using the dagger device. So right now, bring up the dagger device by pressing the home key. You can see on the lower right corner, this is how it looks like if you have the data view enabled, and shows your current coordinates like the GPS device did. And it shows the track like the GPS device, and an elevation also like the GPS device. But it also shows the time, which is now 12:26, and if I open up the watch, well, that's accurate. And also the speed. So if I start moving now, you can see that the speed actually changes. And all this information is dynamic. So it shows elevation changing, coordinates changing, track and speed changing. And it of course would also show if the time changes. So if we wait a minute, it should show that's then 12:27. Okay, cool. So like this, we can gather our own information. So our coordinates, elevation and track. So the way we are facing. But this could also be done using the GPS device, so nothing new here. So we just close this again by pressing the home key again. Now I mentioned that you are able to put in waypoints. Of course, to put in a waypoint, you'd have to know the coordinates of the waypoint you want to add to the device. So for example, if I wanted to go down this mountain, and for example in Gamma route, I already put a handy mark on the map, it says waypoint 1. And of course, because I'm not at that location, I cannot use the GPS device to get the coordinates. But I can use the map, like we did before. So it shows on the horizontal axis 091. And because this is right in the middle of this square here, let's just go ahead and call this 0915 for the horizontal axis, because we need an 8-figure grid in order to enter a waypoint. And for the vertical axis, 067 5 again, because we are still exactly in the middle of this square. So I close the map, and now I press the Shift and position 1 key. This brings up the device like it looks in real life too. Note that it has a screen where it shows you all the menu options available to you. They kind of resemble the ones you got in real life. Of course, some are missing because they just don't have any use in a game environment. And it has some handy buttons, like the down and up arrows, where you can scroll through the menu, left and right arrows that, well, would switch to the left and right. They don't do anything right now, because this view doesn't have any options to go to the left or right. We just saw the data view, so in the beginning of the video I showed you if you select this, it will update the information screen to show your coordinates, your track, your elevation, and speed and time. And now we want to add a waypoint. So if we already had a waypoint, we'd be able to select Go to Waypoint by pressing the Help or Select button. But it says no waypoints found, of course, because we didn't add any to the device. But how do we do that? Well, we go down to Waypoint List and again press Help Select. And here we have it, add, edit or delete. We don't have any waypoints, so we cannot edit or delete any, but we can add one. And these 3 buttons correspond to these 3 menu entries. So I press F1 or mark, and it now shows an 8-figure grid or zeros. And now you actually have to use all 4 of these buttons. Or if you're really good, just 2 of them actually, because well, we have the coordinates as 0, if I remember correctly, 9, 1, 5. I said 2 because I'd only have to go to the right and up if I didn't make any mistakes, but if I go too high, then of course I can go down again and to the left and switch through these. And then 0 again for the vertical axis, 6, 7, and 5. There we have it. I press save. It's entering these informations into this information into the dagger. It says waypoint saved, and I could edit or delete. I don't want to do that. I want to go back, so I press BRT or menu, and then select Go to Waypoint. And now we see that this is actually available. So I press Help Select again. I could add multiple waypoints, by the way. They would all show up there. And now it says information updated. So I close this by pressing Escape and open up the dagger again by pressing the Home button. And now you see it has our current coordinates still in the top, in the bigger numbers, but also the waypoint coordinates, so 0915, 0675. And it also shows a distance. So from my current location, I would have to walk 1228 meters to get to the waypoint. And it also shows your current track, so if I turn left, you note that the track changes, but the bearing doesn't, because the bearing is where it have to face or point to actually get to that waypoint. So if I face at 62 degrees, you can see that I'm now facing directly into the center of this town down there, and this is actually where I put the waypoint. And if I start moving now, like I said, it's all dynamic. The digits and figures will start to change, the distance will update, the track and bearing, if I shift to the left or right, will change, and of course my coordinates will change accordingly. So this is how you'd enter waypoint for points of interest. And you could also use this if you were a forward observer for artillery guns, for example, because you now of course have the coordinates of the waypoint, which would be your target, your own coordinates, which the artillery gun would need in order to do polar or shift adjustments, your distance to the target, and the bearing. What is missing is the elevation, so the artillery gun would have to know your elevation and the elevation of the target, but for that you could use the data view again. So this is how you use waypoints. But one of the nicest features is actually being able to get specific coordinates of targets. So for example, if the target was moving or you didn't have a waypoint set up, as you have noted it takes quite some time, how would you go about to get coordinates of targets? Well, this is where the Vector21b Night comes into play. You all know this, probably used this before, it's a rangefinder. And if I look at the town, actually you can see there is targets there. So if I, for example, wanted to mark this BTR 40 sitting there on the road not moving, I would have a hard time guessing the location on the map because, well, I'm not that good at it. Maybe you are better than me, but I find it quite cumbersome, and the process is prone to errors. So I load the battery into the device by pressing the reload button. And now you actually see it says 70 degrees for my current location. And not many people know that, but actually you can switch the measurement scale. You can switch from degrees to mils or milliradians. And there's actually 4 different kinds of mils in this device, but you'd only ever use the degree, like you see now, or the milliradians or mils that go to 6,400, because this is also what the artillery guns use to calculate the deflection and elevation of the gun. And you change this by pressing the Alt-R or Alt-Romeo. You see now 6,400 is the scale it's now using, and that BTR-40 is at 1,252 mils. And note, if I change a little bit to the right, already the number changes. Unlike if I go back to the degrees, it always shows 70 degrees no matter at what part of the car I'm pointing, so this is way more inaccurate than using mils. And if I now press left mouse button, it will measure the distance, so it says 1,250 meters to that car. Okay, nice. But I still don't have the coordinates of the car. So I close that device again, and bring up the dagger again by pressing Shift position 1 or Shift home. And note that this has an option that says connect to. So I press help select, and it shows that you can connect it to the Vector 21. It only shows this if you have the Vector 21 in your inventory. And note, it will also show this if you have the Desert Camo variant, but it will not work correctly. So Vector 21, I want to connect this, and I press help select again. So it says connecting, and after a little while it says Vector connected. Go ahead and close this again by pressing the escape button. And if I now bring up the dagger by pressing the home key again, note that it already has the information I just spotted using my vector. So the coordinates it shows now are actually the coordinates of the target. Yeah, so cool. We now have the range, the coordinates, and elevation of the target I was looking at. So we could now call in an airstrike. Or, yeah, whatever other asset you have, like artillery or close air support. And to show that this is actually dynamic, let me point to something else using the vector device. For example, if I look through this device again, you see there's a small military base far to the east, at 86 degrees. I measure the distance, it's 2,200 meters. I close this again, bring up the dagger device by pressing the home button. You see now it actually changed the range, the bearing, and the grid ref of the target accordingly to what I pointed the vector device at. So pretty cool, hey? You can use this to effectively mark targets and, yeah, get your own position, get to waypoints and whatnot. And actually, one last thing, if I wanted to go back to getting my own coordinates, I guess you'd already know this, but pressing the Shift home button again and selecting any of these options, like go to waypoint to get the waypoint view again, and data view is the initial view we had. So if I press help select, it says acquiring data. I press escape again, press the home button, you see we now came back to the initial view we had with the speed, coordinates, and everything else. So thank you for watching. This is how you use the dagger device in ACE. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, have fun with it.